Good morning, Albert. How are you?
Good morning, guys. How we doing?
We're doing awesome, man. It's so funny because there's all these, very accomplished national observers of the NFL. I have you at the top of the mountain because you're always very lucid and well thought out in your approach. And then I have to hear different people, I won't call out any names, that they don't go to any training camps. You hit them all. They don't see Caleb play at all, and they just parrot the same nonsensical line about he could be the sixth best quarterback out of that class, and he's this, and he's a bust, and he's that. And guess what? All of them are jumping back on board after what they watched the other night. And as you tweeted, he looked sharp, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think it's, we know the superhero stuff he can do, right? Like, We know that, when he needs to put on the cape, he can. And he can get away from people. He can make things happen with his feet. He's capable of breaking off a 60-yard run. And he can throw on the run. And, really, there's so much he can do in that area. We know that. What I am looking for, I think what Ben Johnson and his staff would be looking for, too, is, how is he playing the actual position, right? Because I think we all know, you're not going to get away with doing that every play in the NFL. It just doesn't work that way. And so, how can he find the balance between playing quarterback the way that he's being coached to playing quarterback and then sprinkling in the superhero stuff as needed? And, I think what we started to see on Sunday night was playing on rhythm, playing on time, the ball coming out, and, him leveraging his physical ability to actually play the position. And I know that sounds simple, but I really think that's what it is does it look like he's running the plays the way they're meant to be run? And I don't know how much of that you saw last year. I think you saw a ton of it on Sunday night. And it's not just, the big gainers. That throw to Zacchaeus was not the most difficult throw in the world, but it was on time. The ball came out fast. The ball got to the guy fast, and the ball put the receiver in a position to get a lot of yards after the catch, which obviously he did. So just so many of those things I think you saw that were really encouraging. And look, it's against the Bills' backups, right? And the Bills probably weren't showing much of anything, but I do think, I do think there were a lot of encouraging signs in the way he played. And now we'll see if it translates to the regular season.
Every team does it differently, Albert, when you talk about the preseason, because it's not 4 preseason games, it's 3 preseason games for a lot of teams. And so with Kansas City, I keep reading that the Chiefs are going to have their first team starters out there in the first quarter. I guess the Bears will as well. What have you noticed about the ebb and flow of how teams handle it? Mahomes is there for the first game, not the second game, but might play this last one.
Yeah, I think it sort of depends on the sort of team you have. I know that sounds simple, but, I think for, a young team, it can oftentimes do you a lot of good to have guys out there and just have them as part of the operation in a game setting. And if you have a lot of new people out there, coaches, players, it can really benefit you. The Chiefs, to me, are a little bit more of an outlier just in that, they're just old school. You know what I mean? So Andy's always done it that way. His training camp is different. They have 2.5-hour practices still. It's that they don't do joint practices. They're just with themselves. They just work amongst themselves. And the preseason games are really the opportunity for them to get that sort of work in. And so it's just an older school way of doing it in Kansas City. I'd say with the other teams, it's case by case. And look, some of it can be reactionary too. I mean, you take the example of Cincinnati, where they barely played those guys at all in the preseason over the last few years and got off to a bunch of slow starts. And, the reason Zach Taylor had done it that way is because that's the way the Rams did. That's where he came from. Well, that doesn't work. So now, okay, let's try something different. That can be part of the equation too, where you feel like the way, you're handling it might be affecting you at the start of the season, so you want to change it up.
True Fan Travel and ESPN Chicago are teaming up for the ultimate fan getaway to Sin City to see the Bears take on the Raiders in Las Vegas.
You get round-trip airfare, 3-night stay at Mandalay Bay, special live broadcasts and meet and greets with the full ESPN Chicago team, all-inclusive tailgate, tickets to Bears, Raiders, and more to come.
Spots are limited, so don't wait. Reserve your spot today at truefantravel.com. Back to you on the video.
Albert, in terms of what you think could hit the cut list, the Bears may need some help at running back. They had Hankins banged up the other day. Roschon didn't even dress. Monungai's a little banged up, but it doesn't sound anything serious. Brian Robinson Jr., Breece Hall potentially. Are there guys out there that you think could be definitely upgrades in the running back room?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there will be opportunity. I don't have any off the top of my head, Cap. I would have to sort of ask around on that, but I mean, I think you could look to some places that have some depth. Brian Robinson's name's been out there. That is a position where generally you can find help, and the good news is that's a position where you can generally get guys up and running pretty fast, And I thought it was one that they were going to address earlier in the draft, and I think the easy thing to do would have been to pair them with Travion Henderson based on his skill set and what Ben Johnson had in Detroit and Jahmyr Gibbs, and that almost that could have happened if Henderson didn't go pick before they took Luther Burden. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a position that you absolutely can address at a late stage like we're at right now.
What is the latest on Trey Hendrickson?
Yeah, I think that one remains unpredictable. I think Cuddy comes down to pride and precedent. Those would be the two things I would say that this whole thing hinges on. The precedent part of it, the Bengals for a long time have resisted guaranteeing future years on contracts. Now, they broke that precedent, their previous precedents, to do the deal for Joe Burrow. Then they broke that precedent again to do the deal for Jamar Chase. However, they did not break the precedent with T. Higgins. So the question becomes whether or not you put Hendrickson in the Chase bucket, because quarterbacks are separate, right? Do you put him in the Chase bucket or do you put him in the Higgins bucket? And to this point, they've been putting him in the Higgins bucket, but they've upped the total number on the contract to a point where it's I would say it'd be hard for me to say no if I were Trey Hendrickson. And that's where the pride part of it comes in, where it's okay, I've waited 3 off seasons. You told me to wait to get all these other guys done. Now all those other guys are done. If I was going to wait this long, then the price was going to go up, and I'm going to have to come out of this a winner. I didn't wait for nothing, And so is there a way where you can marry those things together, where you can make Trey Hendrickson feel like a winner coming out of this, where you either bend on your precedents or you find a creative way with your press to adhere to your precedents while still giving him what he wants? Those are all open questions now. And I would think that over the next, week and a half, things are going to heat up. I don't think anything really changed over the last week either, guys, because I don't really get the sense that the Bengals ever weren't listening to offers. It's just going to be really hard to find a team that's willing to give up picks, a player, and a contract to get them.
Okay, here's our last question for you. Jalen Johnson, elite cover corner. If it was you running a team and the Bengals said to you, you can have Trey Hendrickson, we want Jalen Johnson and a 3rd-round pick, would you give up a 26-year-old elite corner like that in a deal?
Probably not. I would think about it, but probably not. Just because Hendrickson's 31.
Agreed.
I just the age thing, that's tough. And so you'd be giving up that plus now all of a sudden you got a contract at what, 37, 38, 39 million?
Yep.
Right? What does Montez Sweat think about that? You know what I mean? Are you creating another problem there where now Sweat's going to come back because players have felt more at liberty to go in and ask for the quarterbacks to be done based on the market than ever before. I love Trey Hendrickson as a player, but I just think because of the age, the factor of age there, and what Hendrickson's got left in the tank versus what Johnson's got left in the tank, moving a piece of capital, hey, if it's a 3rd-round pick, that's still a pick that you know, like that guy could be on your team in 2028, 2029. Hendrickson's still going to be around then. I think there's just too many questions to say yes.